Hi guys, just thought I'd make a quick video about this zip tie trick for setting bump and droop. Basically, you place a zip tie here at the bottom of the inside of the shock that travels up and down. Currently, my car, of course, is at maximum droop because there's no load on it. It's not on the wheels at all. It's just sitting up in the air. Once it's sitting on wheels and the weight of the car and the chassis is on the suspension, our zippy tie here will bounce up and there'll be a new bottom as the shock gets compressed in. I lift the car up again and the zippy tie will stay up, and that will tell me my total droop from neutral, i.e. how much my suspension pushes out to when there's no weight on the car. From there, if I know the total length of travel, which I got from the manufacturer, I know how much compression I have of a shock, or in my case, I should be saying bump and droop. And from there, I can set the preload accordingly to set how much bump I want, travel I want, and how much droop travel I want. Another way of working out total travel is to take the shock off, pull it apart, and compress and decompress it yourself, and work out how much total travel there is before it hits the bump stop. In my case, the bump stop's internal and protected from the elements. Another way is you just start compressing the shock, even if it's still on the car, and see and hear it hit the bump stop, and then you'll see the chassis start to rise up rather than seeing more compression, and that way you can estimate total travel. That's a bit of a dodgy way of doing it, but if you really want to do it properly, what you should be using is, I think, called motion ratio, and judging from the wheel travel and doing your appropriate calculations, how much the shock is moving in relation to wheel travel. That's easy for me because I've got McPherson strut, so the ratio sits at about 0.9 to 1.1. But if you've got double wishbone, multi-link, and all the other variations of suspension, it might be a bit different. So once I work it out and I want to know where I want to sit, I can set it using the preload. If you wind the preload up, you're placing compression on the spring and the shock. The spring wants to let go of that, and it's only going to do it one of two ways. Either it's going to push down to a wheel connected to the earth and the earth will move, or the chassis will go up. So you wind the preload up, chassis goes up, and what you've done is you moved the little plunger inside the shock. You can think of it like a plunger, and you moved it down, which means your droop is less. You've got less droop travel, extension out, but you've created way more bump travel. And from there, you can adjust whether you want 50% bump, 50% droop, or you want 70% bump or 30% droop. Why would you want anything other than 50%? Well, on perfect smooth roads, 50% is about right, especially on track, because as you go onto a curb, you want the shock to compress and the spring to compress and decompress an equal amount, so it's maximize the efficiency. But real world, if you're out here on these terrible roads that I am, you want a lot more bump. So every time you hit a pothole, it's not putting a big shock on the chassis, and it's not wearing out the bump stop. So you sacrifice a little bit of the droop in favor of compression, just to accept the performance drawbacks that come with it. I hope that helps. Quick summary: zippy tie stays at the highest point. So you can also use it to work out how much of your travel, how much bump you're actually using from neutral, and how much of the bump travel you're actually using up over given roads or potholes. But in our case, we're using that to work out how much droop and how much bump travel we have for suspension from neutral. I hope that made some sense. Good luck with it all, guys.